Have you been shopping for your little girl recently and noticed that the whole world seems to have gone pink crazy? Pink dolls, pink cars, pink televisions. There seems to be a huge demand for it. Now, a recent survey carried out by Disney Princess found that there has been a real shift in our children's playing habits. Previous mums were very tomboyish, I know I was, and it seems that the current generation of little girls all want to be princesses. Christine Webber is a psychotherapist and she's here to talk about these changing trends, along with mum Lisa Gowie and her 5-year-old daughter Tyler, who is of course her very own little princess. Welcome everyone. Now, Christine, what is this obsession with pink and girly?
Well, the Disney Princess report would suggest that 40% of little girls now want to be princesses, want to play at being princesses, and only about a quarter of their mums can recall having wanted to do this at their age. So what does this say? Well, I think there is a natural cyclical thing here that we tend to react to some extent against our parents. That's a very natural, normal thing. And I do think that, like, sort of the mums of Tyler's generation are, as you say, were tomboys, and also, you know, do sort of slob out in jogging bottoms and grungy jeans and this sort of thing. And I do think there's been a kind of reaction against that.
Well, I mean, I know for myself, when I was, I think me and you, Lisa, are the same similar age. I mean, you know, I was definitely a tomboy, yeah, quite rambunctious, played with my brother's toys, didn't really do the pink thing, wasn't even on my radar.
No.
And didn't even want to do that. I mean, my favourite game, I think, was probably Doctors and Nurses. You know, I think that was probably because I liked snogging all the boys. But, I mean, I don't know. What sort of things did you play?
Well, definitely the same sort of thing, Doctors and Nurses, or climbing trees, playing... Even my sister was the same. She's 2 years younger, and she played on bikes the same as I did, and played football, and wanted to, you know, play rounders and do that sort of thing. Wasn't interested in pink or princesses at all.
So do you think that this almost sort of going back to almost a traditional female role, is that something that we'll be seeing in their later lives as well?
It's going to be very interesting to find out. I mean, are we breeding a generation who are going to expect to be kept and looked after and at home making jam? Well, perhaps not if you're a princess, but, you know, I don't know.
One of the maids does that.
I don't know. Or are they still going to grow up to be prime ministers, you know, captains of industry? I don't really know. I mean, I think partly the fact that these sort of products are so readily accessible and relatively cheap, you know, compared with what they would have been in previous generations, that's had its impact. And the fact that it has been taken up by all of them. I mean, I think to some extent now there's quite a lot of peer pressure to be a princess, whereas perhaps in your generation the pressure was to excel in some other way. You know?
Well, I don't know. I think I definitely played Doctors and Nurses. I played school teacher, school mum, and I had all my dollies, you know, lined up and would tell them off if they'd done something
But is it
wrong.
that we now, or that generation, actually know the reality that being a teacher is awfully hard work, being a doctor and a nurse, it's sort of lost the kind of kudos they used to have? Maybe it's just that the fantasy now has to be something so delightful, you know. And I think the other thing is, I rather like the idea about children, little girls being princesses, because, you know, as a psychotherapist, I see a lot of adults in therapy who are were damaged as children. They weren't affirmed enough, their self-esteem was low, they weren't paid enough attention to, whatever it may be. Now, I think every little girl should be the princess to her family. She should feel she is the most enchanting thing on the planet, and I think this kind of helps in a way.
So it's okay to dress up this way? I mean, have you ever dissuaded Tyler from wanting to be the princess, the imaginary princess?
No, not at all. I think you can, in this day and age, you can have it all, and I think the fact that Tyler wants to be a princess, she can still go on later in life to be a prime minister, but just wear pink. There's nothing wrong with that.
Pink, and why not? And why not? I can imagine Margaret Thatcher with a little sort of, you know, tiara and
a
tutu.
Think about that.
I mean, well, let's talk about boys' toys as well. I mean, because obviously this is great for girls, but do we still have a stigma around when boys try and, you know, dress up or maybe do something that isn't perceived as the sort of typical male or boy role? I mean, I know a little boy just down our street, and he loves pushing this little pink buggy. And I'm not sure how his parents feel about that.
I don't actually think there's anything wrong with it at all. My son's 11 now. He plays rugby and football and does all the normal things that boys do. But you know, at the same age as Tyler, or well, really younger, probably about 2, he was still trying on my shoes and playing with my handbags and things like that. And I don't think there's any way that we should dissuade children from doing that.
So it doesn't mean they're going to be gay if they wear pink or want to play with girls' toys?
I don't think so.
Well, statistically, some of them will be. But, you know, I don't think you can say, oh, my goodness, he's playing with pink. This is shock horror. Because, after all, when a little girl in the 60s or 70s played on a chopper bike or with an action man, they were the big toys then, you know, I don't think we all thought, oh, heavens, you know, she's not very female, is she, you know, or feminine? I don't think so.
It's funny you say that, because my daughter's only 19 months, and occasionally, when she was very young, there were some great little boys-type outfits, and I dressed her up a couple of times, and people would say, oh, you're dressing her in blue, and I said, it's OK, she's cross-dressing, but I think she'll get over it, you know.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a stigma between what girls can do and what boys can do.
But it's also quite recent, you know, I was doing a little research on the internet before coming on here, and in 1905, there was a book about parenting suggesting that little girls should always be dressed in pale blue because that was a kind of frail, fragile colour, and that pink would be quite suitable for boys because it was nearer red. So, you know, so in the last 100 years, this has completely turned around.
How things have changed. Well, let's ask Tyler. Tyler, what's your favourite game? What do you like playing the most at home?
With Barbies.
With Barbies. And do you like dressing up? Now, Disney have actually sent us a few bits in to have a look at, so why don't you have a look at what you most like to play with? Is there anything there of any interest to you? I know we've got this glitter bag, this Disney glitter bag, haven't we? And we've got, oh gosh, we've got marshmallows in here. I might have to have that myself.
Wow, marshmallows.
That sounds great. And we've got a television set that's in, of course, pink. And we've got a magic wand. Perhaps I'll give this to Tyler to see if she can make us a spell or cast us a nice spell.
Who's that princess on there?
Jasmine. It's the same as this one.
So when you get together with your buddies, your girlfriends, what do you do then? What sort of games do you like playing?
Snap and stuff.
Snap and stuff, but with pink snap cards.
They are princess snap cards, actually, yes, yes.
They are. Of course they are. I mean, you know, do you think this is taking away from a child's imagination, though? Because there's so much stuff to play with, and there's so many things that you can buy them. I mean, you know, the average parent must be absolutely horrified to even turn the TV on when the adverts are on.
Well, I think in most families, you've got, nowadays, the childless aunt, such as me, you know, who is very happy to indulge the children. So I don't think it's all just coming from the parents. I think, you know, you have your other children in the family and you indulge them because you don't have children of your own, and you're able to find that floor in the well-known toy shop where everything is pink, and then you become the very popular aunt. So I don't think it's all the pressure on the parents. And I actually think it does encourage make-believe and imagination and an imaginative play. And those things are very important, aren't they?
I mean, because that's a good question, Lisa. Do you feel that when Tyler is playing with her toys, you know, does that add to the imagination? Does that sort of create another story within a story?
Definitely,
how does it work?
Definitely, I think so, and it just adds another dimension to what's already there. I think she already knows what she wants to play and what type of game she wants to play, and the fact that she can, you know, that she can have the little princess dolls or have the little handbags and the little, you know, castles and things like that. It just helps her imagination, helps it much better for her. I don't think.
And how often do you actually get involved? How often do you take part in role play?
Yes, mummy's made to play quite a lot, and that's fine. I love playing with her, and I think that's another way for a parent to spend time with her child. There's nothing wrong with that. It's great.
And are there any times when you think it's detrimental to encourage something like this, to encourage children to be a fairy tale figure that in effect is impossible to be in real life?
I don't really think that's a problem. I mean, because they're facing real life all the time. They're facing school and school uniform and normal things. So I don't think that sort of retreating into that fantasy world it is really a problem. I think it might only be a problem if you became too acquisitive and sort of like you felt, oh, you're nothing if you haven't got the very latest thing and you've got to have it all. But I mean, no, I think it's nice, and I think, as Lisa says, you know, to enter into this make-believe with children, because so many parents feel really guilt-ridden about how little time, comparably, they have to spend with their children. But the important thing is the quality time that you do spend with them, and if you can enter into their make-believe games with them, I think that's a very good way of interacting with your child.
And what about the stereotypical roles? I mean, Tyler, there's a toy down here, a Power Rangers toy. Let me just bring it out here. Is this something you'd play with? Why don't you like this one? What's wrong with him?
Boys.
It's a boy's toy. And what's wrong with boys' toys? They're just not as interesting. No. You much prefer to play with the girls' toys, do you? I mean, and again, this is, I'm guessing, a typical boy's toy. And Power Rangers is all about, you know, shooting things and firing guns and jumping and being very active and all this kind of thing. Again, oh, did you hear that? That was totally unexpected. I think I pressed something. Oh, of course,
no,
I'm pressing his power belt. I'm going to leave him alone.
Yeah.
You know, we're still passing that message on to little boys, though, aren't we?
But don't you think that the reason that little boys are interested in those sort of things is because they are, at some level, you know, they're going to grow up to have a lot of testosterone. They are more naturally aggressive. I mean, if you watch two children walking through, say, a shopping mall with their mum, one boy and one girl, the little girl's probably looking at the shops and on the whole, behaving in a relatively docile way. The little boy's probably walking through going, you know, sort of acting some adventure game of his own, because they are born to be, you know, the hunter-gatherer, the more aggressive type of person. That's just in our chemical makeup, you know. I don't think you can fly in the face of that.
So it's, as far as you're concerned, it is nature, it's not nurture.
I think it's
they're
nature.
going to do whatever they're going to do, whether they have pink things or whether they have Power Rangers or whatever.
There have been parents, haven't there, that have said, I'm giving my daughter a mechanical, you know, a socket set or something, I'm giving my son knitting to do or something. But, you know, in the end, they all do what they want. And I think a lot of people have tried very hard to interest their children in sort of non-gender specific or even, you know, the opposite gender thing, and they're not interested. You know, you cannot, just because now women have it all, hopefully, and can do all sorts of things, I don't think you can fly in the face of sort of millennia of conditioning where they were feminine and they got looked after and they, you know, enjoyed soft, romantic things, and boys are more aggressive. I mean, that's just the nature of us all.
So, Tyler, when you grow up, what do you want to be? It's a tough one.
What job do you want to do when you grow up?
Be like a mum.
Be like a mum?
Oh, that is lovely. Be like your mum. Oh, well, that's the best kind of job, isn't it? That's fantastic.
That is the best kind of job.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, everybody, Tyler, Lisa, and, of course, Christine, for coming in and chatting to us. And, well, the Pink Fest, I don't know where to start. I think I might have to go for the marshmallows in a minute. There you go.